Okay, before we get into the money talk, I need to ask you, have you been using the Fiverr Promoted Gigs feature? What it is it's a feature where you can enable it to allow Fiverr to promote certain gigs of yours through this new promoted gig functionality. Basically, these promoted gigs appear at the top of Fiverr search results, and every time a buyer or potential buyer clicks on a gig that is being promoted, that seller pays Fiverr for that click. Basically, it's a feature where you as a seller can influence the amount of impressions, clicks, and hopefully orders you're getting to influence how busy you are as a Fiverr seller. So that's my question for you. Have you ever used it? So let me know in the comment section below, because I'm about to go into some of my long-term Fiverr promoted gig results, and I seriously think that the results are going to be shocking for a lot of you. I'm also going to go over some insider tips that I received directly from Fiverr about promoted gigs that you're not going to want to miss, and you probably won't fully understand unless you watch this whole video. So try to watch the whole thing. I think it's going to be really valuable for you. Okay, so to give you the lowdown on my experience with promoted gigs, back in May, I created a video talking about my first experience trying out the promoted gigs feature. At that time, I had set it up to have a maximum spend of about $5 per day at 50 cents per click, and I turned it on for one of my newer, not super popular gigs. The idea was that if promoted gigs worked really well, I was hoping that it would help boost the popularity of this newer gig of mine, helping me make money on a new gig. At that time, I let that promoted gig run for about 7 days, and then I shut off the functionality and reviewed the results. In that test week, that promoted gig got me an additional 146 impressions, 7 clicks, and just about $3.40 in spend for those clicks. So in that first video, I let people know that I tested it for a week, didn't really get the results I was hoping for, and didn't really know if it was gonna be something that I would move forward with, and moved on. But then something awesome happened. Shortly after that video, my Fiverr Pro customer success manager sent me an email letting me know that someone from Fiverr HQ had seen that video and wanted to chat with me about promoted gigs. They were the product manager for that part of Fiverr's functionality. So that's what we did. We set up a call and we talked about Fiverr promoted gigs for over an hour. Side note, the fact that Fiverr reached out really 10x'd my belief in Fiverr as a platform that actually cares about both buyers and sellers. It really cemented my mindset that Fiverr was the right platform for me. Just thought I'd mention that for all of you who are still kind of on the fence. So yeah, this was a member of Fiverr's team. They reached out for some feedback and even provided me some really helpful tips with regards to Fiverr promoted gigs that has made me quite a bit of money since that call. Anyway, so like I said, we spoke for over an hour and he really gave me some awesome insight and tips on how the Fiverr promoted gigs feature should be used. And it made me realize that my initial 7-day test on a gig that wasn't really that popular might not have been the best way to get the most out of Fiverr promoted gigs. One of the key concepts we talked about that really set a light bulb off in my head was he was explaining to me that Fiverr promoted gigs isn't intended to make a gig that doesn't sell well magically sell well. It's not what it's for. Instead, he suggested that I use it as a tool to promote my best performing gigs, which at first didn't really make sense to me. But if you think about it, it does kind of make sense, because when you're promoting a gig, all it's doing is putting that at the top of search. Buyers still need to choose to click through to that gig based on the thumbnail and the title, read the description, and purchase that gig. If you decide to promote a gig that doesn't do a good job getting people to purchase it after they click through, promoted gigs isn't going to change that. It's just going to increase the amount of people not buying your gig who are seeing your gig. So that's kind of not really the best use of your marketing dollars, right? So the net of this conversation was that if you're promoting gigs, try promoting your best gigs, because that will maximize the amount of revenue you're making from all the money you're spending to get clicks on those gigs. You don't want to pay for clicks on gigs that aren't going to sell. So promote the gigs that you think have the best chance of selling. And that's what I did. So since that call, I decided to give promoted gigs another try, and I turned it on for 4 gigs this time. And these were 4 of my best selling gigs. It's been a couple of months since I enabled promoted gigs on these 4 gigs, and here are the results. In total, I've received an additional 3,450 impressions on those gigs. they received 135 additional clicks, and that costed me about $35. Those 135 clicks got me 7 orders. And the value of those 7 orders was $760. So I spent $35 on promoted gigs and I made over $700. Not too shabby, and it really proved to me that promoting your best gigs is probably the way to go with promoted gigs moving forward. The ROI has been awesome, and switching from promoting my less popular gigs to my most popular gigs has definitely paid dividends for me, and it's something that I'm going to use as long as I want to get a higher volume of orders in. So this is where promoted gigs is pretty interesting to me. You know, I've talked a lot about lowering my workload. I want to increase the amount I'm making per gig on Fiverr without necessarily just having a massive increase in the volume of orders I'm getting. So I look at promoted gigs as an awesome tool for slower parts of the year. I turn it on, I get more orders, or parts of the year where I have more bandwidth to do more Fiverr projects. And by turning it on for my top gigs, it's really proven to be a great way to increase the amount of revenue I'm making from those gigs. The other thing kind of indirectly related to this promoted gigs talk I wanted to mention is that I wouldn't have known about promoted gigs and the benefits they could bring if I switched up my approach unless I spoke to Fiverr. But I also realized after speaking to them, this information was already available to me. Fiverr's been sending out emails to all sellers with webinars, live sessions that they do, and this was actually a recent topic they had spoken about just before my call with this Fiverr employee. So the takeaway for me is, me personally, I'm going to pay more attention to those things, but you might want to consider doing the same. There's a community event section on the Fiverr homepage that all sellers can access, and it lists a lot of helpful stuff. Stuff that might help people like me and you make sure we're not missing out on simple tips like this one when it comes to promoting your best gigs that could result in a lot of extra money in our pocket. So I'm going to be checking that stuff out in future, and you might want to consider it as well. Make it a part of your weekly routine. You might uncover a real nugget that helps you make a lot more money down the road. Also, on the topic of staying up to date with things to help you make money on Fiverr, you might want to check out this video. That video is a video I recently put out that talks about some of the hottest Fiverr gig searches currently available. Like, this was something that Fiverr put out. They analyzed the top search terms of the last quarter for the things that people are most searching for. So if you're looking for ways to really pick some high demand niches, add some new gigs to your offering, and make more money on Fiverr, this video could really help you uncover a new gig that you might want to offer. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, cheers.